Hi, team. Welcome back. I'm Matt Young from the Quality Sport Hub, and I'm here today to talk about activating long-term athlete development in a club setting using a case study from a hardball community league, Highlands Little League. Now, to start off with, who am I? I have great experience in the allied healthcare profession and personal service business, over 20 years. I have 15 years of coaching in grassroots sport, including baseball, soccer, hockey, football, and lacrosse. I've had the pleasure of learning and connecting with experts and folks in physical literacy advisory boards from Vancouver, Alberta, and nationally at the Canadian level. And I've had the pleasure of working and learning from sport organizations that include local community sport organizations, provincial and national sport organizations, all the way to professional sport organizations. My primary MO is to see how we can create more quality sport experiences for all the participants at every level of the funnel so that we can increase the amount and nurture the funnel from grassroots participation right through to high performers. So the first thing we started with when we looked and we were invited to connect with this community organization was some of the challenges that they were facing. Number one, lack of organizational alignment. Nobody was on the same page. Because of the volunteer nature of the organization, it was basically trying to get people and accept anyone with a pulse to take a position on the board. And that lack of organizational alignment trickled right down from the board level to the coaches, to the teams, to the players, and to the families. That gave way to celebrity coaching. So it became very quick that it was all about the coaching and all about who was the best coach and how do we get our kids aligned with the best coach. We had unbalanced teams, so the scores were very lopsided, 20-2, 36-9, and basically that perpetuated the focus from a community perspective on wins and losses. So it was a race to get to the best coach. Now, if you look at this and think about it in terms of a community level, what community sport is supposed to be doing is bringing people together. We're going to meet new people. We're going to share common interests. We're going to develop some new friendships, and we're going to get to see our kids develop not only as baseball players and young men and women, but quality citizens in the community. That's really what youth sport is supposed to be, a dress rehearsal for real life. But because the focus was on wins and losses, and there could only be one winner, the majority would have an unenjoyable experience if we didn't qualify wins and development and progress in different manners other than just what was on the sheets at the end of the game. Now, all of this obviously led to a dramatic decrease in retention. And from the time that we were brought in and asked to come and support this organization with some growth, they had seen a drop of as much as 250 players on an annual registration. This is not atypical of what's happening across a lot of organizations in the community levels and across a lot of sports. So the first thing that we needed to do was revisit the tenets of quality sport. And there are 4 tenets of a quality sport program and quality sport management. Tenet number 1 is organizational alignment. Starting at the top, at the board level, what is the vision, mission, values, goals and objectives, guiding principles, and terms of reference that we can use? Those are the blueprints for quality organizational alignment. We're not going to dive too much into them. We're going to stay really high level for this sake and make this quick, just so we can get a sense of how we did this over to everyone who's interested in learning more about it. Number 2 is discipline project management. So once you have that organizational alignment, who is going to be in charge to make sure that what we have slated to happen and what we know should happen is actually happening? And that's where a lot of organizations fall short. Is we're really good with the information and education. We're not that good with the activation and accountability to the great things that we know should happen and say should happen. Number 3, stakeholder connectivity. When you look at the sport stakeholders, there are many. There's not just one. There's the athlete, who we usually forget. There's the parent, who's the secondary and primary consumer. There's the coach. There's the educator. There's the officials, which are hugely important and often overlooked. And then there's the administrators for that sport organization. So how do we create an environment, an integrated operating environment, tenet number 4, where all those stakeholders have transparency and connectivity to what should be happening so that we can make sure that those quality sport experiences are actually taking place. So step number one starts at the top. All change starts at the top. We met with the incoming president of the organization and we said, what is going to be our vision for this year, going into the year in Highlands baseball? And what we agreed on was a higher level of engagement. So once we had that as the vision, a higher level of engagement, that is something that anyone can get behind, because it's not about the wins and losses, it's about the development of everyone. So we started with board development, and then we went to community development. We talked about facility development, coach development, and ultimately player development. Why do we put player development last at number 5? Because we believed if we did 1, 2, 3, and 4 well, we would significantly increase the chance of player development and quality sport experiences. So what we do and what we did was really find the right people and put them in the right roles. A lot of times, these community sport organizations are desperate to have people join the board. We didn't take that approach. We intentionally went out into the community and sought people who we knew in our community were really good at different positions. So people with experience running business were brought in to be the president or board of director, or support the president and board of director, so that they could have experience running a business, because running a community sport organization is very similar to running a business and should be taken as seriously. Who was going to be the director? Who was going to be in charge of safety? We tried to go get and engage those people because we wanted the right people in the right roles. There is nothing more debilitating to a board than having the wrong people in the wrong roles. And again, that's where the buck starts and stops. So we need to really make sure that in terms of board development, we engage those right people. Second, the community development. Again, how do we go into the community and talk and use and leverage our elementary and primary schools into introducing the sport of baseball to them? And the sport of baseball is declining a little bit, and there's a number of reasons, but people say because it's boring, people say because it's not that active. Who wants to sit out and watch a baseball game? It doesn't have to be that way, but we need to go into our communities and really make a push for why it was important for young men and women to come out and try to play baseball and get engaged, whether it was fastball or softball. So we did that. With the getting the right people on board, we knew who was great in the community at connecting. So connecting to things like sponsorship, connecting to things like permitting. We, again, were very intentional with who we engaged to do those projects, because we knew that not one person cannot do it all, and the wrong person in that role would be detrimental to the overall vision and mission for the Highlands Little League. Step number 3 was facility development. We had some facilities that were run down. They were old. They were a little bit worn down, and we needed to get new equipment. We needed to get different things into our facilities to make the prospect of athlete development come to fruition. The saying goes, you can't expect the same thing when you're doing the same things over and over again. It's a definition of insanity. So we really wanted to really up the level of facility development, and we had the perfect person to do that. This person, that was their raison d'etre. They wanted the field. They wanted different things. They wanted scoreboards. They wanted batting cages. They wanted pitching machines. They wanted to really take their skill set and bring it to the sports skill set, because they had loved the sport. So we really got lucky by putting somebody into that, which really had a significant positive impact on the overall season and the ability for coach development and player development. Step number 4 was coach development. So what we knew was we were outsourcing this. So we were outsourcing this to a startup academy with a former baseball player who wanted to get it started up. Now, nothing was wrong with that, except for it wasn't inclusive to everybody. So instead of us sending people out of the community that could afford to go to this baseball academy, we went to the baseball academy and engaged him to come into the community setting and work with the coaches, so that all of the coaches could really benefit from the experience. And second thing we did was we actually went to the coaches and said to the best coach, the coach that was winning all the time, hey, listen, you're a winning and prolific coach. We'd really love to see you share your knowledge and expertise with some of the volunteer coaches who are dads just trying to do their best but may not know a lot about baseball. So we broke down the practices like this. We had one game every week, and we had two practices. That was the season. One of the practices was a team practices just with the teams. What we suggested was the second practice was a practice with all of the kids that were in that division and all of the coaches. And the lead coach would basically set up the schedule, set up the plan with the support of the baseball player who was running the academy, and we would break it down. So week to week, we had a specific periodized focus. So that was really key in terms of coach development. We developed manuals. Information went out the week before of what we were going to focus on and why, and drills went out and pictures of drills, and there was the availability to ask any questions and get the support that we needed. So coach development at the community level was absolutely key. And what was great to see is that everybody had attended. Everybody was there. Everybody took something from the experience, and the whole league benefited as a result. So again, right people, right roles. And remember, as John Maxwell says, the 25-50-25 rule. 25% of the people are going to be on board for the change that you do. 50% are going to be undecided, and 25% are not going to listen to change, even if you tried to taser them into change. What our goal is to try to keep those bottom 25% away from the 50%. In some cases, you got to cut them loose. So in some cases, we had to tell some of the coaches, thank you, but we're not interested in your services and coaching. It is imperative at the community level that we do all we can to make sure that the coaches are not just onboarded in terms of some of the materials that are required and they check the box and it's a one-on-one, but ongoing mentorship so that they can really have a positive impact on our young men and women. Step 5 was player development. And what we did that was different from the years prior is we started off the season by evaluating our players. We wanted to baseline their technical, tactical, and physical competence. So instead of selecting teams by aggregating the best players and then playing inferior components and thinking that the coach was amazing, we brought everyone together at the beginning of the season. We evaluated them on very basic skills: hitting, throwing, pitching, catching, fielding, running, and we got a mark. And that mark was basically used to balance all the teams. So what we did, if we had 6 teams, and the final mark was out of 10, we would go 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, underneath 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, and all the way down. Now, was this an issue? Of course, because kids want to play with their friends all the time. But we had to remove that. Let's prevent all the great kids from just participating with the great kids, because that's not fun for the majority. So what we wanted to do, because we're in a community, because a lot of these kids went to school together, this is a community. It's an opportunity to meet new people. Chances are you're going to be with a couple of your friends, and chances are you're going to meet some new friends, and that's really what it's all about. But the parents, the kids, the coaches, the community benefited from this process more because there wasn't the internal intra-community competition against each other. We were focused around having and creating good teams and creating good players that could then go out and compete against other communities. And that's really what community sport should be. So we took all these into consideration. We touched on the confidence, we touched on the character, the connection, and of course, with this new culture, it really elevated our experience from years prior to this year of development in this community. Again, baselining at the middle, reevaluating mid-season, reevaluating end of season, giving that information, sharing those results and that data with the kids and the family to show them, look where you started and look where you are now. Another point of contact, another diversion away from, let's just focus on the wins and losses. How about we focus on your individual development? And oh, by the way, as you're developing individually and you're getting better because that's what you're focused on, the results are going to take care of themselves. So a little bit of a paradigm shift. Instead of just focusing on the schedule, the standing, and the score, we focus on the individual development. What did we see? Well, at the end, we saw people that had a more enjoyable for baseball. We saw closer games. We saw a lot of things that we're going to touch on. But in terms of player development, we really saw players falling in love with the game because the game was offering them a service. The game was offering them a overview of where they were. And for the first time in a long time, we were focused on their overall development and experience and being really transparent with that, which is one of the tenets of quality sport program in that stakeholder connectivity. So what did we see as the results? Well, like we just said, we saw player development. Obviously, we saw coach development. This was huge. Coaches at the end of the year thanked us for the whole protocol. They enjoyed the process of coming together and learning from one another. We saw balanced teams. At the end of the season, it was a toss-up as to who was going to go in the playoffs, and the team that was expected to win, teams that were expected to win didn't win. But it didn't matter because it was a lot more closer. The games were exciting. It was an exciting time being there in the spring, in the lawn chair, watching young men and women play and get better and find the excitement in the game. The community was engaged. So by going in and visiting the elementary schools with an overview of the mission and the vision, inviting kids to participate, seeking out and being intentional with the people that we were sending the sponsorship, getting into the media, creating the signs, leveraging their contacts to create a better overall environment was super helpful in engaging the community. The facilities benefited. The facilities that once looked like a dilapidated ball ground with no fences and uncut grass now have scoreboards, now have fencing around it, now have permanent pitching mounds. They have equipment for that's throwing nets. They have increased batting machines and batting cages and opportunities for that player development and coach development. Most importantly, we increased the amount of enjoyable experiences. Cannot say how great this was in terms of the learning from where we had come from to where we finished at all levels. People were engaged. People were having fun on the athlete level, on the parent level, on the coach level, on the administration level. Way less arguments, way less reports of complaints. And obviously a lot more enjoyable experience was had by all. And most importantly, it set a foundation. And this was the foundation that could be built on as we move forward. Now, when we drive down the park, we see even more equipment. We see even more engagement. We see people that have taken that framework that has been created and elevate it to a different level of engagement. And that's really what the entire process is about. So this was a quick and dirty. It wasn't as easy as this 10 to 15 minute conversation. It required a lot of time on the front end, but as the saying goes, if you have 4 hours to chop down the tree, why not spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe? This was an example of long-term athlete development operationalized inside a community club that went right through all of the things that should be happening and yielded positive results for the participants. So if you have any questions, if you need any more questions or you want any support on how to do this for your club, contact us, info@qsporthub.com. Again, that's info@qsporthub.com. We've got the experience. We can help you at all facets of the development, and that's what our goal is. Thanks very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed.